The connection between hoarding and loneliness. If you tend to buy too much and find material things comforting, this may be a sign that you are lonely. We explain the relationship between these two realities. There is a connection between hoarding and loneliness. Today we seem to be suffering from an epidemic of loneliness. In an increasingly individualistic and competitive world, human connections are conspicuous by their absence, and the number of one-person households is on the rise. Although being alone does not necessarily equate to emotional loneliness, we are in fact social beings. It seems that this absence of meaningful ties leads some people to hoard items to fill this void. In fact, this is a trend that most of us are immersed in. We have become more and more consumer-oriented, and the internet and new technologies make it easier for us to acquire goods from home. Instead of spending quality time with other people and building and nurturing strong, meaningful relationships, we therefore spend more and more time shopping online. Compulsive buying behavior has increased worldwide over the past 2 decades. However, not everyone is equally affected by this trend. So what makes us more likely to substitute affection, companionship for material goods? Let's find out. The tendency to accumulate and hoard. The tendency to hoard and accumulate is quite common in the animal kingdom. The human brain is also programmed to do so, especially when we cannot rely on a safe and regular availability of supplies. In fact, to some extent, we all enjoy having a stocked pantry and several clothing or decorative items. That being said, some of us take it to extremes. People with hoarding tend to hoard items that they cannot part with. In fact, the mere idea of doing so makes them extremely anxious. This is either because they feel they might need them in the future or because they attach emotional importance to them. Therefore, the objects end up filling their entire home and become a significant source of discomfort. These individuals generally have fewer social relationships of lower quality. Also, they often have difficulty connecting with others, and use their possessions and collections as a way to connect with a happy past or to deal with loneliness. Hoarding and loneliness. Why loneliness leads to hoarding? Why then do some people choose to fill their social and emotional voids with material goods? A study from 2018 provides some interesting information about this. Anthropomorphism. The study claims that one of the answers lies in anthropomorphism, i.e., the tendency to attribute human characteristics and qualities to non-human beings. Like the child who claims his doll has feelings. Or the main character in the movie Castaway, who attaches himself to a ball he calls Wilson. People who live solitary lives with a greater need for affection, companionship, may anthropomorphize animals and objects. This compensates for the lack of warmth that they gain from social contact. There are many ways we inadvertently ascribe will, meaning or emotion to objects, from turning to a stuffed animal for comfort to naming technological gadgets. It is proven that the loneliest people do it more often. Anxiety intolerance. On the other hand, it appears that those who have greater difficulty tolerating anxiety are more likely to acquire and collect objects. This intolerance to anxiety is due to a lack of adaptive coping mechanisms. In these cases, when faced with adversity, the individual resorts to guilt or rumination and feels both hypersensitive and overwhelmed. Therefore, they find solace in objects and their acquisition, in the face of these negative emotions, which are unbearable and uncontrollable. Anxious attachment. The tendency to acquire collect objects to an excessive degree is also found in people with an anxious attachment style. These individuals experience negative emotions more frequently and more intensely and feel less able to cope. Furthermore, they tend to have emotional deficiencies and a need for cohesion, emotional security. Therefore, They attribute human qualities to objects to cover their unmet social needs. They may even find in excessive buying and hoarding some kind of sense of belonging that they really long for. Collectivism and loneliness. Research on this topic suggests that collecting, acquiring, or attaching to objects helps certain individuals compensate for their lack of social connections. Therefore, it can be of help to them at any time. However, this is not healthy and they should seek support to learn how to build and maintain meaningful human bonds. Finally, the research results suggest that if we want to combat a tendency to excessive accumulation, it can be a good starting point to work with anthropomorphism and intolerance of anxiety.